When you can knock people out, people are scared of you. And when people are scared of you, it makes the fight that much easier. So let's get into how to increase your punching power. So one of the first things they teach you in boxing is that form is everything, and it really is, especially when it comes to power punching and your power punches, right? Which includes the right, the hooks, and the uppercuts. You're going to want to put your body behind those punches. You can't just let those be arm punches if you want to hit harder, right? So what that involves is making sure that your energy, your entire body, brings the power from the ground up, right? You want to focus on your legs, twisting them like you're killing a cockroach, right, in a pivot motion. And then you want to bring that energy up into your hips, flick the hips out, bring that momentum over into your lats and your shoulders, and push that energy out into your fist, into your opponent's brain, and knock their lights out, right? So when you're throwing the right hand, what you want to do is you want to make sure you use your entire body to throw it, right? You don't want to just flick it like this, right? That's not a good power punch. What you want to do is turn your entire body to get into it, right? If you ever seen Mike Tyson throw his right hand, he comes with everything. He comes from the ground up, his big, powerful legs. He gets that spring action in his legs. And he comes with his entire body, turning his lats over, turning his hips over, and shooting that right hand right over the top, right? You turn that shoulder. It doesn't matter if you shoot this way or shoot over the top. You want to roll that shoulder out, right? So when you're throwing, that shoulder should smack you in the face, right? That's the best way to practice it. So let that shoulder smack you in the face. What a lot of Cuban fighters do, and this is a good way to practice that full hip rotation, is to make your forward-facing shoulder point back when you throw your power punch, right? It doesn't matter if you're southpaw or orthodox, you can do this. So basically, you're going to throw the right and make that shoulder point backwards. And you'll see that I'm getting full rotation on my hip when I do that, right? My shoulder's pointing back and I'm getting full rotation on my hip. That full extension that you get on the hip is what you want when you throw the right hand. Eventually, you can stop pointing the shoulder back once you know what that hip rotation feels like. And you're going to do the same thing for the left hook, right? So when you throw the left hook, you want to turn that hip over. Boom. Right? You want to throw that pivot and that shoulder. You want to roll that shoulder over. You want to throw, bam, with power. Bam, snap that shoulder because all that energy is coming from the bottom. And you want it to snap that shoulder and pop that punch, right? So every time you throw the hook, wah, right? Wah. Danny Garcia has one of the best left hooks in the business. And if you see him, he gets that full rotation on there, right? Every time he throws, wow, 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 right? Monstrous left hooks. And you want to practice that when you're shadow boxing, right? You want to put power into it. You want to feel those punches snap out, right? You want to, right? Every time, throw with bad intentions. Practice putting your entire body into it, right? You don't want to just throw, right? None of that bullshit. What you want to do is, wow, 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 right? Feel those shoulders snapping. Feel them smacking you in the face. You want to get your whole body into those punches. Speaking of putting your body into your punches, you want to make sure your body is strong. You have more of it and it's more dense going into your opponent, right? All that energy, you want to make sure you can build that energy, right? What a lot of fighters do is they make the mistake of constantly training their martial art, whether it's boxing or kickboxing, whatever it is. They'll focus on that and they'll do a lot of that, which is great. But you don't want to forget strength training in the process. Strength training is super, super, super important for fighting. Not only is it important for your muscle endurance, but it's also important for the actual strength that you're able to generate with your punches. Strength training will give you the muscle connectivity, it'll give you the density, and it'll give you the most utilization of this vessel possible. Any sort of strength training for fighting should revolve around compound movements, meaning movements that involve more than one muscle, right? The bicep curl is not going to do anything for your punching power. So you want to focus on things like push-ups, pull-ups, squats, right? These are the exercises that are going to give you the kind of strength that you can use in your punches. I'm not a big fan of weightlifting because it does carry with it a higher risk of injury than a typical calisthenics routine. And if we look at the greats from the past to the greats of the present, there's not really that much difference in their strength levels or their endurance levels, right? And weightlifting became popular in just the 90s, right? Fighters never lifted weights prior to that. It's the 90s that the whole strength and conditioning thing happened, where guys like Holyfield started hiring bodybuilders and things like that to join their camps. And some of them seen benefits, especially when they're moving up in weight classes, right? But a lot of times it also could take away from your fluidity as a fighter. What I recommend for strength training for fighters is high rep calisthenics. I've done it. Many fighters of the past done it. I actually dropped a link in the description to the entire Mike Tyson workout that I did a lot of research on. And he, surprising to most people, lifted no weights in his prime. It was all high rep calisthenics. He would do crazy numbers of push-ups, dips, and squats, and that's what his strength training revolved around. He would just do circuits multiple times throughout the day. So a typical workout for a fighter can be something like 400 push-ups, 400 dips, 200 pull-ups, 400 squats, do about 400 sit-ups, and call it a day, right? That amount of strength training daily with just a few days of rest in between, or maybe just on Sundays, is enough to get you powerful for your fights. If you're really extreme, then you could go into the 1,000 push-up range, double your pull-ups, double your dips, right? Double your ab work, and be in an entirely different level. Guys like Ron Lyle were known to do 1,000 push-ups a day in jail, and you could see how strong that guy was, right? Guys like Herschel Walker, who's not necessarily a fighter, he did thousands of push-ups a day and didn't lift weights back in his day, right? He would just do push-ups, and then when it came to weightlifting, it was easy for him because he already had that strength from all the calisthenics he did. Infamous prisoners like Charles Bronson, they did high rep calisthenic routines, right? So there's a lot of guys that were able to get ridiculous amounts of strength. Guys like Roy Jones Jr. never lifted weights prior to having to move up to heavyweight, right? He would only maybe lift weights for his legs when he did squats. Other than that, it was pull-ups, push-ups, and dips. Guys like Manny Pacquiao, right? Mostly plyometrics, calisthenics, stuff like that. You want to do a lot of stuff like that that helps you use your whole body and makes you be explosive in the process. Do your strength training and give your body more to work with, and let it be able to generate more energy that you can put into those punches and put your opponent's lights out. The next tip to increasing your punching power is to throw with bad intentions at all times. If you look at all the heaviest punchers in combat sports history, boxing or MMA, they all threw with mean intentions. Every time they threw a punch, there was something behind it, right? It wasn't just for nothing. They wouldn't throw lazy shots. They would throw to end you every time, right? Roy Jones, Mike Tyson, Tyron Woodley, the list goes on and on, right? Of guys, when they were in their prime, they would hit to hurt. Every power puncher out there, like Manny Pacquiao, they would punch to hurt you. They wanted to hurt you. Larry Holmes once said when he fought Mike Tyson, it was the first time he really felt like the guy in the ring was trying to hurt him. Like it wasn't just a competition. The guy really wanted to inflict pain on him, right? So you want to throw with bad intentions. You want to come in there with rage. You want to come in there controlled rage, right? You don't want to lose focus, but you want to come in there wanting to hurt the guy. You don't want to just come in and be lackadaisical and think about winning on points. No, the decision, right? You want to go in there and you want to try to hurt the guy every second of every round. You want to throw for pain every time. Pain. You're there to inflict pain. Pain is the name of the game. And you got to do that in practice. You got to learn to generate that ferocity in practice, right? When you're shadowboxing, right? It shouldn't be bah, unless you're warming up, right? Once you're warmed up and ready to go, you should come in there and you should want to right? You should want to hurt. I don't care what it is that motivates you, right? Think about the guy that your girl cheated on you with. Hopefully she's your ex now, right? Think about some guy that might have said something about your mom. Or, you know what? The best way to think about it is the difference between your family getting hurt or not is the next punch you land. And throw every punch like that's what's on the line, right? And that's even when you're hitting the heavy bag, right? Don't throw any bullshit punches. You don't want to just throw heavy winged shots either. You're still boxing, right? You're still boxing. You want to throw shots that are both fast and hard every time. And the way you do that is self-evaluation. You want to make sure that after you throw every punch, either have a coach or a partner, somebody evaluate you. If you don't have anybody, do it yourself, right? Ask yourself, was that the best punch I could have thrown? I could probably throw that harder and faster, right? And each time, throw it harder and faster. I say this in just about every video, and it's because it works. Not only will it make you hit harder and faster almost immediately, but it also conditions your body and your mind and tells it to throw as fast and as hard as you can and to improve your strength and your speed together in unison, right? Which is what you want. If you look at the guys that maybe win a belt and then disappear versus the guys that stick around for a long time, the difference is when they're in the fight, they're able to be at a high pace to throw every punch with bad intentions the whole time, right? They don't fade. Even their defense is on point for the entire 12 rounds, right? So what happens when you don't throw on point to your best ability in training the whole time? You won't be able to maintain that level of ability in the fight. So you have to be excellent in training all the time. Don't try to last through practice and take the sting off your punches, because then you'll never really be in good shape. You're just lying to yourself. Let me calm down a little bit because I really got on the flow. Now, for this next tip to increasing punching power, we're going to get into physics a little bit, right? So in physics, it basically says something like mass times speed equals power, right? At least that's how a boxer looks at that equation. So what you want to do is you have two options to increase punching power. Increase speed or increase size. Now, if you're competing and you're fighting in MMA or in boxing, you don't want to gain a power punch by increasing size, because you're just going to move into that next weight class and nullify that punching power advantage. So what you want to do is increase speed. However, if you're just getting street ready, then you need to increase both size and speed to hit harder, right? But if you're just competing, then you want to make sure that you're working on your hand speed. And I have a whole separate video that talks about increasing hand speed. But one of the quickest tips I'll give you now is to just shadow box with gloves on. It will do wonders for you. I'm not going to get into details. You can watch that separate video for that. But shadow box with gloves on, your speed will go through the roof as long as you're still putting everything we talked about into the punches, throwing with bad intentions, throwing your hips into the shots. It'll do wonders for your hand speed. Lastly, we mentioned the word density a lot here. So what you want to do is you want to build density in your bones where it matters, right? The point of impact, which is your knuckles. So the way you do that is you strengthen the bones through something called Wolff's Law, right? What this guy basically said is the more trauma your bones experience, the stronger they get. They kind of like muscle fibers. They break down, then they heal, and they get more dense. The way you do that is a few simple ways. One is you want to do knuckle push-ups. Right? When you do your push-ups, do them on your knuckles. If you can't go straight to concrete, do them on a softer floor like a mat or a carpet, and then work your way onto some wood floors maybe, and then eventually work your way onto concrete. Or if you don't have options to work your way into a harder surface, what you could do is just not do push-ups, get on the concrete and stand there on your knuckles, right? This will help you develop some density so that eventually you could bang out those push-ups and strengthen those knuckles. Another way is to hit the bag with just wraps on. I recommend at least having wraps on so that your skin doesn't peel. And you want to start off slow. You don't want to just go well in on it because you risk injury, right? You risk hurting your hand. But you want to develop that density, and eventually you'll be able to hit the bag harder and harder and harder. And your punches will feel harder and harder and harder to your opponent. There's also a great drill that I call Big George that you could use to increase your punching power, and you can check that out in the heavy bag drills video. It's one of the drills there. I borrowed it from George Foreman, one of the heaviest punchers of all time, and this is the main drill that took me from being a faster guy, a guy focused more on speed, to being a guy that could really do some damage and hit it much, much harder than I used to. Right, so that's a drill you guys definitely want to check out. It'll definitely help you increase your punching power. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying the content. Drop me a comment below. Let me know how you like it. And also check out the links in the description. I link out to a bunch of stuff that referenced in this video. I link out to a book that talks about a lot of stuff like this. It's going to help you take your game to the next level. And also our website that has a ton more content like this. Other than that, I'm Sean with Brawl Brothers, and I'll brawl with you guys next time.